We're building another PC. YouTube! This PC build is gonna be the whole kit and caboodle, the little oomph and the little something. Basically, this is gonna be a mega massive, top of the line i9 14900K, as well as this Z790 Aorus Master Gaming motherboard right here. You know when this Aorus is getting serious, especially when it says Master. One of the big things that I'm excited to test out and try is Wi-Fi 7. Now I have 5 gigabit up and 5 gigabit down, and as you guys can see, this thing is packing a whole lot of. It's a ton of I/O on this thing. 3 USB-Cs, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 USB-As, a display port, 10 gigabit Ethernet LAN, and it's an eATX size board. Well, since you asked, as far as cooling goes, we got something to discuss because we have 2 options. We have this Aorus 360 with an LCD display, and these have magnetic fans connectivity. Now, magnetic fans are the wave right now. Dilemma is going to be, I have this as well. This is the Thermaltake TH280. This is a 280 radiator, RGB with a panel as well. Has all of the support, even for gigabyte RGB, which is dope because, you know, we're gonna be keeping everything all in sync. And this is an option. Again, we'll discuss this dilemma when we get into the case that I'm building in. Well, you need power, CJ. Of course I do. And we have plenty of it with this 1200 watt Thermaltake white snow power supply, which is going to be nice because we're going to get white cables. Oh my goodness. Now, this is not going to be a all white only build. I like to add contrast to the white cases. Did I just give it away? Are we building in another white case? Well, darn. I guess we are. Well, who doesn't love RGB, right? We got these Thermaltake fans, which are magnetic connectivity. Again, like I said, magnetic fans are the wave right now, eliminating cables. The case that I just built in had a lot of RGB fans with a lot of RGB cables, and that makes the cable management not as fun. So these are the Swafan EX14. Beautiful. Gotta love that for cable management. So we're gonna set that right there. And then we have another gem from Thermaltake, DDR5 RAM memory, which who wouldn't want this in their device, right? Boom. Now this is gonna be a spicy build. Well, actually something hot with the i9 14900K going in here. We also have a LG A1700 bracket in black. We have a 4 terabyte Samsung 990 Pro. Did someone say graphics cards? Oh boy. We got the Gigabyte 4080 Super in the house. I'm excited to build with this and see what this packs. So we have this as well, which is an LCD panel kit in snow for the case that we're going to be building in, which if you haven't figured it out by now is a Thermaltake case. A new one, a mid tower. Let me show you what it's going to be. The Ceres 330 ARGB in snow white. I'm sorry, you know, another white build, but white builds and white PCs look so good. And if you haven't seen my most recent build, you need to go look at it because it looked so good. I don't know if I'm going to be able to top it with this build. The challenge is on. Now, I got to explain to you guys why the radiator decision is somewhat of a dilemma while building in this case. So the main hiccup is the fact that you cannot place a 360 millimeter radiator on the upper portion, but you can put a 280, which is why I have a 280 from Thermaltake, which may and possibly could be enough to cool my i9 and keep everything going. This case has optimal airflow. We got mesh in the front, taken in. We also have options to bring air in from the bottom. We have a lot of mesh to bring out from the rear and from the upper. So there's plenty of airflow to be created within this case. The question is, do I want to go 280 and mount up top, keep these large, these are some nice, look like 140 millimeter RGB fans in the front. Is that a 140 on the exhaust? Oh, yo, shout out to this case. This case is really thinking about your airflow. So there's always the debate and dilemma behind, you know, how you should mount your radiator. So if I did a 360, it would only fit in the front. Or we would do the most optimal, typically, is the top mounted with the 280, tubes coming down, everything placed in the most, you know, general ideal orientation. Yeah, I don't know, I gotta decide. And yeah, decisions. But anyways, let's stop deciding and let's start building. It is time to build inside of the Thermaltake Series 330 RGB Snow White case right here. And the beautiful thing about it is white on white on white. As far as those who want to just completely all white builds, this will be a white build with contrast. But all of the case cabling, the fan cabling, is all white. This thing is packaged really well. Look at this Gen 5 heatsink. That is crazy next level. Bro, look at this heatsink. Oh my gosh. That's next level. I don't have a Gen 5 M.2, unfortunately not yet, but you know what? I might actually pause this and go grab a Gen 5 M.2. So as you guys can see, I went out to Micro Center and I basically leveraged the kidney to get one of these PCIe Gen 5 M.2s, 1 terabyte. You know, the only thing about new technology and cutting edge, it's gonna cut you deep with a sharp edge at pricing. Man, this is a 1 terabyte. You don't even wanna know what the 2 terabyte costs, and I got this on sale. Okay, so let's open and install this expensive M.2. Okay, I'ma stop. And this install is completely toolless, might I add, which is really dope. Like, boom. Everything, all you need is a flick of a finger. So the great thing about this being such a toolless motherboard is I'm not reaching for a screwdriver right now or my electric screwdriver. I can literally have an M.2 in my hand, use my free middle finger, lift off this heatsink, peel away the one that I'm going to use, which is going to be this. I'm a fan of the toolless M.2 installs. Just the toolless in general. Like, I love it. So there you have it. And we're going to peel away that heatsink. Now, the next thing I want to do is install our CPU, our i9-14900K. Boom! The hot one. This is the hottest CPU in these streets. They kept it very minimal this year. Container. And there we have it. So, instead of using the socket on this motherboard like most people will do, I'm going to do this socket replacement. All right, so here is what I'm speaking on. This is an LG A1700 socket replacement, basically. And this is from a company called Thermalright. These come with thermal paste. They also come with the tool you need to remove it, but you also have to be very careful in the way that you remove this socket, as well as in the way that you install the socket. I've seen build videos where people use electric screwdrivers to go in with this, and I've done my research, and that's technically not the way you want to do it. So I'm going to show you the meticulous way to do it. I did it on my previous build that I just did, so I'm going to show you guys how to do it on this build. The first thing you want to do is seat the CPU. Now, if you don't know, the arrow is here. There's an arrow on the cover plate, and there's an arrow on the CPU. You align the arrow with the arrow. That was a terrible placement, but we have placed it. And then now that the pins are protected and covered, I will go ahead and remove the screws from these two pieces. So that way you run less of a risk of these screws hitting the pins, which you don't want to have happen. Boom. Uh-oh. You see how that screw just fell? That could have been the pins. And by seating the CPU ahead of time, you help prevent that from happening. So boom, we're gonna place this. I got a black one, they have blue, they have red, they have different colors, silver and so forth. Now that that's in place, we're gonna take the original screws that we took off and we're gonna set them. This is the moment. So what we're gonna do is, I'm gonna explain it, then I'm gonna show you really simple. You're gonna take these screws and you're gonna go the opposite way, lefty, loosey, and you're gonna hear it click. That means the screw is set, and then we're gonna do a 90-degree turn. Do the same thing to the next one, cross pattern all the way through until we get the point of resistance. So if you're not hearing that click, that means your plate is not up against it. So now I need to push my plate, which is right here, up against this portion. All right, so that was quite difficult. And the main reason it was difficult is because the back plate that the screws screw into, it wasn't having pressure. With me laying the motherboard flat on a flat surface, there's a gap on the back in between where that plate connects to the board and the bottom, as far as where the rest of the full board actually connects to. So I had to hang it off the edge of this platform box that I'm working on, apply pressure to that back plate, and then screw in slowly. I got it done. Hopefully everything is fine. Now, something a little less complicated. We're gonna get into installing this DDR5 RAM from Thermaltake. Boom. But it's always typically slot 2 and slot 4. I'm gonna double check in the manual, because I always do. And just as I suspected, you're gonna go into A2 and A4. Now, the manual to this motherboard is digital. And for anyone who's new to building a PC, I know this part, it could be a little nerve-wracking because you have to apply pressure to the RAM chips to get them to fall into play. Oh, these flip out on both sides. On the last one I built in, it did not. I really like this motherboard because it's, oh yeah. There you go. Now you want to hear those clicks. Boom, boom. Then we're gonna push and apply pressure. 2 clicks, you're good to go. Now I wanna make sure there isn't any protective film or tape on these portions. Sometimes there is. It does not seem to be. Okay, so now we have our motherboard in a completed state with RAM chips, CPU, and M.2 storage. So now it's time to apply this motherboard into our case. All right, so you get your standard screws and cable ties. I prefer when the case comes with separated and labeled screws because it makes the process a lot easier to find the exact screws that you need, especially if you gotta look in the manual and figure out which screw is which. If the packaging is labeled, it's that much easier. And then even furthermore than having individually packaged, screws, which obviously raises the cost, I understand. There's something else that I prefer. All right, when they include a casing like this, something like this goes a long way. As you guys can see, this is from my very first PC build. I've held on to it all these years because look how useful this is. This takes eATX, ATX, and others, which is why I waited to build this build inside of this case, is because it supports the sizing of this case. So let's get it onto the standoffs properly. I can see all of my holes, see all of the area of where I'm going to be screwing. Now it's time to find out which one of these screws are for the motherboard. It's good to have a magnetic base similar to this for placing your screws, especially in this situation, because the amount of screws I have to place on here is ridiculous just to keep from losing them. I'm gonna pour these out onto here and I'm gonna separate these really quick. Okay, so what I did in order to help me was I separated the screws. This one comes with 8 screws, which is the amount of screws you need to put your motherboard to the case. So I assume that those are the screws, right? And I'm just gonna double check, triple check for sure. Oh, okay. And this is why manuals are important. As you guys can see, for the motherboard, they gave you these M3 5mm, and they gave you 32 of them. So I was wrong. I counted out these 6x32 6mm, which I've used on my previous one. Sometimes you use those too for motherboard installation as well. We're gonna use these and my precision screwdriver, which I've been waiting to pull out. Now, this is not a necessary, but I like this. This has a nice design and aesthetic. It actually is what came with the magnetic thing. If you guys end up going into a lot of PCs or smartphones or things of that sake, you might want to get one of these precision screwdrivers. This is from Hoto. It's really cool because you can magnetize your screw tip. I literally do this. Bam, now this tip is magnetized. Boom, magnetized. And then that's super convenient and easy when you're going into this type of setup to screw in. Get into these tight corners. This is where you need either a long screwdriver that's magnetized, or you can get the electric one like I'm using and get that swag with it. So these are magnetic fans, which is super duper dope because they're gonna connect to each other without needing all these crazy cables. You see this? You see how these are nicely labeled right here? That's what I'm talking about. Labeled things make things go faster. These are what you need. The LGA 1700 screws. So I got those. Oh, this has some adjustment to it. You see that? That's cool. So we have the Intel backplate. We have the Intel mounting bracket. So we got our fan screws, our radiator screws, our washers, and our thumb screw caps. We're going to use that. This is going to get used as well. They supply you with some thermal paste. We're going to use aftermarket thermal paste. I'll explain that. Bam. Gotta love the fact that those fans connect magnetically. So I got you guys a better angle, as you guys can and will see. So we're gonna go from the rear side and we're gonna plug in this back plate. Once you have it fitting in all of the holes, then you're gonna wanna put these standoffs in here. These right here. And you wanna hand tighten these. So boom. Now we already have pre-installed 140 millimeter fans here, so we're going to have to remove these fans. I just want to test placement and fitment. Oh no, we'll do this. So that way we bring the cables below the top of the radiator. A lot of people are gonna be like, oh, you're mounting it wrong because your pump and it's gonna get air and so forth. If you watch J2Cent's video, he explains it. You know, air rises to the highest point, which will be this point. As long as this motor is below this portion, the air is gonna go up there. So now that we know we're going in there like this, we're gonna need our fans doing an intake on here. Our fans will be intaking from this way, bringing it in through the front, cool air in, through the radiator, into the casing. All right, so you guys get to see me attempt to pull this off smoothly without little to no hiccup. Actually, it's not that bad. Fan connector right here, which is gonna connect to that. Should have had that on ahead of time, but I was able to make it work. Okay, so the next smartest thing for me to do before getting into putting the cooler on and so forth is putting on these two 140 millimeter fans at the upper portion. This upper part comes off. The orientation is gonna be like this out. All right, I'm gonna route the cables first really quick. Bam. All right, now let's try and connect and daisy chain these a little bit. I got a confession to make. Sometimes you get up, you get in the building. I was trying to reuse the case fans that were already, you know, included, which require cables. And I absolutely, in doing that, which is the more reasonable way. If you didn't buy any other fans, that's what you would do. You would do what I was showing you with the cable management, until I realized I have magnetic fans from Thermaltake. Magnetic 140 millimeter fans, that is, the new ones, which is the reason magnetic fans exist, so I don't have to go through the stress and pain that I'm going through right here, right now, with these not being magnetic and different daisy chaining points, which I'm trying to route those to get a cleaner setup. Bro, I would have did all that, got to the end of the build, looked at this box and been like, oh my gosh. So this has the fans plus alternate blades So that way, like, let's just say if I put it at the bottom, like I might actually put some on the bottom because there is room for a fan on the bottom, which I will be doing. And I'll be able to show you guys how you can swap these and still get intake versus it being outtake without having to have the rear or the ugly side of it show, if you know what I'm saying. You don't have to flip the fan backwards in order to get intake. Right now, it's set up, these blades equal air going through that way, and then you got the back. But if you put this blade here, it will equal air going this way. Let's think about the wiring connection that's gonna go out, which is basically going to be this. You also get the daisy chaining capabilities as well. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna route this through that exact same channel in this upper portion of the case. And our slack of cable. Let's pull that all through, right? And then you can take this and make sure that it goes onto the fan properly. Boom. Does it connect the opposite way? It does not. It only connects the right way. And that's good news for those who make mistakes and can be rushing. That's for the impatient builders. That is so clean, so little cables. Thank you, manufacturers, for magnetic fans. These are for sure the go-to. All right, this is the next step, which will be the final step for the AIO cooler, getting it onto the CPU. I'm gonna tell y'all what, it's a lot less cables so far because we had so many magnetic fan ecosystems with the Aorus ones for the radiator. Like, this is creating a very clean build. Coming from the magnetic fans, they need to connect to the AIO. So right here, you have your ARGB connection point, complete. And then we have our fan connection point. And it's full 4-pin, which is actually pretty cool. Boom. And I'm pretty sure that all passes through to the cables that come out at the cooler end. Okay, so for the thermal paste, we're gonna be doing NTH1. Now it's time to apply this. Now we gotta put on our plate. Whew, I have to figure out that orientation. Okay. We got our SATA power, and then, so this is gonna connect to a USB 2.0 on the board. Now your AIO is fully installed. Ran our cables for now. So now I wanna put in that 140 fan on the bottom. Really quick, I'm gonna replace the fan blade on here going from the natural way to the opposite. All right, got that off. So you guys can see the old ones are shaped that way. The replacements are shaped in the opposite. So we're just gonna drop this in, click it, and now it is the reverse blade and it's labeled as well. Connectivity, it only goes on one way. And now we're gonna screw this in. All right. A cool thing is I have something for this front plate, which is an LCD kit. Thermaltake LCD panel kit. And I'm only bringing this up because I'm gonna have to remove this panel in order to see and have easier access to me putting and installing this plate from the direction that I'm going. So we're gonna remove this dust filter right here. I will remove these 2 screws. Move this panel out of the way. And then now I have access to this fan to be able to grab it and line it up as I need it. Lined up. All right, we'll go ahead and unbox our LCD panel kit. The actual panel right here, which just goes right onto there, which is gonna be super fire, super dope. This is a very simple replacement install. You got your micro USB that you're gonna plug the other cable into. Actually, I should just do that, right? I should go ahead and feed it. So I'm gonna run this cable through here. I'm gonna plug it in, and we're gonna have to cable manage this around our fan since we have a fan down there now. Oh yeah. Put that in right there. Close it down. You know, the beauty about this build so far is there aren't a ton of cables. I am loving that about it. That the cable management is very, very much managed. And another plus about this case is it's compatible with the new MSI Asus motherboards that have the rear connectors, so they're like no cables on the front. That's the new direction that motherboards are going, and I'm all for it because, you know, when you have to bend those power cables to connect to the front, having those on the rear just makes the most sense and will allow for a far cleaner looking PC build and setup. A lot less cable management in the front, allowing for all of the cable management to happen on the rear. So I love that. And this case supports that. So that's another plus to this Thermaltake Series 330. Let's continue to build. Oh boy, the world of building PCs is just always is something, right? There's always something. You always get to a point and then you realize, oh my goodness. So what I just realized is that this fan right here, this one, I think it's just a case fan. I don't think it has RGB goodness. And yeah, so with that being said, when you're building an RGB build and you have extra fans to spare, there is no way that you're gonna allow a non-RGB to be in the getup. So I'm gonna have to take one of those front 140 millimeter RGB fans and place it here at the rear. It's not that big of a deal. I'm glad I caught it when I caught it. All right, that was a super easy fix, and I'm glad that it was easy. Thankfully, time is on our side so far with this build. This build is turning out really nice and really well. At this point, I'm about ready to connect power. The best thing about having a 1200 watt power supply is headroom. When choosing power supply, obviously, you don't want a ton of unused, but also you want headroom too. And you don't want to go too low. So those are all of the things to consider. Cable bag, really nice, all white power supply. All right, so as I get ready to install this PSU and do these cables, I gotta go to YouTube because, you know, you guys, you know everything, obviously. So when it comes to your PSU unit, do you aim your fan upwards, taking in air from the case, exhausting out, or do you aim it downward, taking in air from outside the case and exhausting it out? Which way are you setting up your fan? In this build, what I want to do, I typically have always aimed it down. Now, I know if you have carpet or if your case is not going to be, you know, lifted up, the case doesn't have like a raise within it, then that's not ideal. In this situation, I'm not placing this case on the floor, on the ground. I'm not placing it near carpet. I think I'm gonna try this way. You guys can comment down below because you know everything. And of course, you guys are like PC expert builders and you're gonna tell me I'm doing it wrong probably, or whatever you're gonna say. Here's my reasoning, right? It's all about airflow. And this is an airflow case, so regardless. I got 3 intake fans in the front going through the radiator, right? I have one more intake fan from the bottom coming up. So those 4 are connecting together and coming through, right? I have an exhaust fan on the rear pulling air that way, but I also have 2 exhaust fans up top. So essentially that air should be going and hitting like this, right? Boom. Now, that's 4 fans in, 3 fans out. Now, it is 3 120s and 1 140, right? I only have 3 140s going out if I just stick to this method. But if I flip the PSU the way that I want to, I now add a 4th fan. Comment down below and let me know if I'm wrong, you know, because the internet loves to debate on which is the right way. Typically, I do it fan down, but this time on this PSU, with the way that it's set up, because it has exhaust on the side, which this case allows for the exhaust on the side from the PSU to come out, and it has exhaust on the rear. So I'm thinking it's going to be a positive thing. I think it's going to work out in a good way. So that's the route that I'm going to go. And now I'm going to get all of the power cables that I need. I'm not doing any hard drives currently, external hard drives on this build. It's all M.2, which is cool. We have that 600 watt cable. This power supply is PCIe 5.0 ready. All right, let's wire this bad boy up. Man, this is the least amount of cable build I think I've ever done. This is gonna be beautiful. I guess there are some front panels out there that have larger connectors now, because this front panel connection point is huge. Boom. HD audio goes in the same old typical spot on the motherboard as usual, which is over here, far left right here. Boom. All right, let's do our USB plugins now. Here, flipping it out. I'm gonna come in on the upper part right here for this one. I feel like this one is just like whichever way, right? 2 of these USB joints, let's see. And then here comes the second one. You basically just look for the missing pin and you put the blocked off part where the missing pin is. And that's how you do it and do it right. Put this on loose for when we put our graphics card in there. All right, let's get the power cables that need to be routed up through and around here. All right, bring this in, bend this bad boy. Gotta get this bad boy the bend of his life. And it's better to have done these before you put in fans. In the future, I think I'm gonna start doing that. I might start routing these a little bit earlier. Boom, and now I'm gonna do number 2. Again, give this the bend of his life. Actually wasn't that bad. I'm getting good at this. I'm getting better. I will go ahead, however, and plug in this bad boy. Give this a nice good bend. So we have our fan plug, our one fan plug, and then our one ARGB fan. So we got the 3 140 millimeters all upon just 2 cables, as you guys can see. This first one, which is our 3 140 millimeter, and I'm gonna plug it in right there at the first ARGB connector. And then I'm gonna take this bottom one, which has a daisy chain point on it. So if I add another RGB fan, I'm able to connect it to this connection point as well, due to all of the daisy chaining opportunities that are available with these. So boom. Now I have 2 system fan cables that I gotta handle. Your shot would be dope if I did POV. Strictly, it's gonna be fire. And honestly, with all of this stuff, now having power and connectivity to it, we can do our graphics card. I'm gonna get this SATA cable plugged in right now, really quick. All right, so 24 pin ATX goes right here. Our 2 CPU joints. So these are both gonna go in like this. Oh, there we go. All right, boom, boom. Peripherals, this can go here. This is for that one SATA power. And honestly, after doing that, I just gotta plug in my 600. All right, everything is clicked in nice and sturdy. We can reseat our power supply. This cable management situation is so nice. It's gonna be so easy and so ideal to manage. So now, literally, all I have to do is my graphics card, which I'm super amped about. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we have a 4080 Super going into this build. I just put a 4080 FE in my last build, and that thing is performing top tier alongside the i7 14700K. That combo is solid. Oh, this comes with a support hookup. Essentially, how this would work is you would use standoffs, and instead of the motherboard screws just going directly in, you'll screw in the standoff and then screw your motherboard screw in here, and this will lock onto 2 screws of the casing, and then you would screw the support that's at the end of the graphics card into here. Make sure you're using the correct and proper standoff for the sizing of what your motherboard is screwing into. Now we also gotta check the length. Let's see. Oh, it's gonna fit. It's gonna clear the front radiator. So that's a super duper W. But here is the 4080 Super. Is actually quite slim and it's not massive and overtaking. It's long, pause, but it's not crazy. I've seen some super thick, crazy graphics cards. Actually, the Aorus graphics card that I've used in the past, I think I got like a 3080 Master, is massive. Hooks in, bow. I'm gonna take a thumb screw with the washer, and that is what we are going to attach to the support. This part goes under and behind the support bracket right here. So before we do that, we need to remove, get that out of my way. Okay, let's see. Let's see if we can make this work. Yes, we can. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, There it is. The support screw real quick with my precision. There we go. Okay, we're in there. All right, start that with the thumb first. That's the smartest way to go about it. And then we can cover it. Where do we plug in power for this graphics card? Bruh, oh, I see it. Okay, it's over here. We'll feed this cable up and around. I think I heard the click. You want to make sure that this is all the way in. Yeah. Why do I like building PCs again? Somebody remind me. Let's get this thing all sealed up and closed up and lit up. Let's turn on the lights, baby. 5th attempt at getting this to close. Oh, bro, that whole time I think it was me and not the case. Okay, hold on. Oh my goodness. That was definitely, wait, there we go. That was definitely user error. Let's put the top. And then after we get power, we'll hook up a monitor and see if we get Windows. All right, power. Oh, it just booted straight up when I turned on the power supply. Well, I do see some RGB. I don't see all RGB. The front of the case looks fire, actually. Look at this. This looks good. You know, our nice contrast case. I haven't peeled off the plastic yet. We saved that for... Oh, we got all RGB. RGB. Oh, wait. We looking good. My number one question when it comes to the Wi-Fi antenna. Is it magnetic? Oh, it is. So this is a beautiful, positive sign. We got power and we got lights. Got our 1440p 32-inch LG Ultra Gear monitor. Ready to crank out FPS goodness. Okay, so I'm trying my hardest not to use the same peripherals from the last build, but inevitably I can't find my all black Logitech G Pro mouse, which is what I was gonna use with this. That brings me to this keyboard. Nice thick quality cable though, I'll give it to him. I can feel the quality in this cable. Boom. All right, let's see. Do we have life? So something should be happening. There we go. Woo! It's alive! BIOS has been reset. Please reconfigure your BIOS setup items if needed. Okay, boom. We have life. i9 14900K, 32 gigabytes of RAM being read properly. We got both the Samsung 990 Pro 4 terabyte, and then we got that NVMe 5.0, you know, that crucial right there. So AIO pump is on. We're gonna have to flip that inside software if it allows me to. This glass is a little dirty. Oh, that's on the inside too. Oh, we gotta clean that off. All right, so I wanna give you guys a little heads up on a couple things like firmware wise or BIOS wise when setting up, especially if you use this motherboard in specific. Now, when I started to do my Windows installation, this is something common that happens with a lot of different motherboards. It got to the internet portion and nothing was up there. It couldn't detect my Wi-Fi or the Ethernet port that I had plugged in. So what did I have to do? I had to get the LAN driver from the Aorus website online. Super easy, put it on a thumb drive. It's an executable file. And then when you go into Windows and you're waiting, you're gonna hit Shift F10, which will bring up the command prompt. And the command you're gonna type in is Explorer. And after typing Explorer and hitting enter, File Explorer is gonna pop up. You're literally gonna go to your thumb drive, click on the executable file, and then you're gonna do the install. It's as if you were running Windows already. So I'm gonna show you guys an example of that because I got heads up from my contact at Gigabyte Aorus about the water pump that it needs a firmware update. All right, I got that plugged in right. So right here, you guys are gonna see me. I'm gonna type in Explorer. I'm gonna hit enter, and you guys can see File Explorer opens up. So I downloaded this, Windows 11 64-bit, ran it, and then now you guys can see it has detected my internet connection. So everything's gonna run. Now I wanna see if I can run this really quick. Let me see if this actually run. Looks like it might run, and it might actually do a firmware update to this AIO so that it doesn't freak out. During the update of FW process, do not power off or unplug the USB cable. It takes about 4 minutes, as they're telling me. I'm gonna hit OK. And just in case if you were wondering if the update is actually happening, I looked over here and I saw this. So it is working. It is doing its thing. This is the reason why he told me to do that. As you guys can see, it's just the middle one spinning. All right, so that screen just went black and now it's back and all fans are spinning now. Okay, so I learned something and you guys learned something. Hopefully, let's continue to set up. My timer just went off for 4 minutes. It actually literally took 4 minutes. Okay, so I just wanted to share this with you, right? The Gigabyte Control Center is super dope because it has all your updates that you need to get, once you install and set up something like this. Now, again, this is a brand new motherboard. I don't even know if this is available for purchase. It probably is, but look at all these updates. And it gathered and grabbed all of the updates for me and told me which ones would need a restart required. Right now, we're doing all of the ones that do not require a restart. And then the one for the motherboard, which does require a restart, that firmware, we're going to update that last. I'm excited to see this PC all together. I can't wait to get my fans the color that it's going to be. And we're going to build the theme of Snow Panda, baby. I probably got to add a little blue in there because we got the blue aviator cable, key chrome. I think this is Q3 Max keyboard. And for now, the Logitech G Pro in white. I wanted the black one. I have a black one. I just can't find it. So the second I find that, I'll swap that out. All right, so real quick, I want to fill you guys in on something that I'm going to do. I know I like to say that, I don't go back in after I'm done. There's a couple things I have to go back in for. Number one is because it's just visually. It's all about aesthetics. It has nothing to do with functionality. Everything's functioning. I'm doing all of the Gigabyte Control Center updates right now. And it's basically the fact that USB cable that I rerouted, I didn't realize when I rerouted it, I went over the, like the ATX cable for power right there. I don't like that. So I'm going to tuck that under. It's going to look cleaner. And then another thing, these two fans match, but this one is a different style fan. This is an older fan, or the case fan. I'm going to move this case fan to the bottom, and then I have my other magnetic fan, which matches these, under. So why hide that? That's the newer, nicer, more aesthetically appeasing and matching fan. So I'm just gonna swap those two. Okay, it's time to fix those aesthetic things I wanted to change. All right, let me take off the back plate. Now when it comes to the build and aesthetics always change. And I did, so got this one out, newer RGB. Okay, so this PC motherboard has Wi-Fi 7 wireless connectivity. I just did a speed test. Now let me share some results with you guys up close and personal. Ooh, I want you guys to see this. This is Wi-Fi, you guys. I'm going to show you and prove to you that it's Wi-Fi in just a second. Oh my goodness, look at that up. So as you guys can see, download, upload, Wi-Fi. Oh, 4080 Super is crazy though, CK. You know what I'm saying? Like, no cap. I'm broken. That dude that was floating in. My book. Okay, there goes my, you gotta keep the manuals and stuff. And yeah, I'm not one of those people who act like I don't need or use manuals. I use manuals and I take time. I double check, I triple check. That's why when I turn on my PCs, guess what? I don't have to reopen them. I turn them on, I load in Windows, and I go.